Hello, sweet ones, and welcome to this week's episode of Embodied Divinity. Big, deep breath as you tune in. I hope you're enjoying the eclipse energy, however, it might be affecting you. There's always a way to alchemize and ground it in to create more of what you desire. Because we're right in the brink of that season, I want to remind you that all the patterns, all the chaos, all the past things that are coming up right now are all happening for a reason, to show you how far you've come, to show you what you're truly ready to let go of, and to really allow you to consciously make an empowered choice about what you desire to create and call in over the next 6-month cycle. I personally am choosing to be indoors during the eclipse and throughout this week and have my shutters drawn, having candles lit, and I'm going to be embodying the light this world needs, really allowing my frequency to remain high and keeping my attention focused on the new earth I desire to call in for myself, for you, for the world. As we all collectively anchor in the energies that we can, remember that we are the sun, we are the light, we are the source. We are it all. We can create and overcome anything. We can transmute any amount of darkness. So big, deep breath as we settle in today. Our topic today is ancestral healing. And I have a different perspective on it. So try to tune in and help yourself to see some of the intergenerational patterns and traumas that you've been carrying, and allow this new perspective to unburden you from that. Also, Wednesday, we have a powerful guest speaker who does ancestral healing work. And then Friday, we have a beautiful meditation with the ancestors where you'll be given an opportunity to put these tools you learned today into practice. So big, deep breaths as we settle in. So I want to set the record straight before we get started that there, and if this goes over your head, that's totally okay. Just take what's for you. But I want you to remember that all timelines are happening simultaneously. We live in a timeless universe. We constructed time for our ego in the here and now to be able to operate, for me to be able to set this recording at a certain time, for us to be able to meet up with our friends, for really us able to be able to function in these human vessels with these human minds. But time doesn't truly exist. There is no past, present, future. It's all happening simultaneously. So when I speak of ancestral healing, what I'm speaking of is the different versions of you, the different fragments of source energy that have come down onto this earth in this timeline that are connected to and through you, through different patterns and ways of being. You might call them great grandmother, you might call them great 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 grandmother, or whatever it might be. And remembering that they are simultaneously existing alongside of you in other parallel dimensions in reality. And so as you heal yourself, you have a ripple effect through that cellular DNA. 7 years forward, 7 generations forward, and 7 generations backwards on these parallel timelines that you are positively affecting. Now, I also want to say before we talk about all of this that it is not your burden to carry. Anything they went through, anything that they created is not your burden to carry. And while we'll learn in this episode how to identify ancestral and intergenerational wounding patterns, you are healing them for yourself and therefore having a ripple effect on their energy. But what a lot of unhealed ancestors will do, or what your own psyche will do, is think that you have to carry all of their burdens as you heal. And you don't. This is your permission slip to set down the baggage and the burdens of your ancestors and walk in your truth, in your light, in your strength, knowing that as you heal yourself, keeping your intention on doing this work, you will have this healing effect intergenerationally. So breathe deep into that, knowing it doesn't have to be quite so hard. It doesn't have to be quite so heavy. And what this allows us to do when we set down the burdens of others is it releases any resistance that's there, and it clears any clouds that are there, allowing you to see clearly what is yours and what is theirs, and seeing how what wounding patterns of theirs have been created in your reality to be healed. And then we get to call on our ancestor in a very healthy way, saying, show me the way. They have this beautiful vision now that they've passed on. They have this beautiful vision of the steps that you can take, of what needs to be done. And their soul is that pure light consciousness, unburdened by all of the egoic wounds. And so while the wounds have lived on through DNA to come back to you to heal, your ancestor's soul is clear and pure and has all of the knowledge of the universe here ready to guide you. It is only your own wounds and wounding patterns that you have inherited from them or created yourself that is still clouding your judgment on the next right step, which you will get clearer and clearer as you release this. So healing generational wounds, healing generational trauma, healing your ancestors asks for you to take a look back in time. So we're stepping into that time-based reality in that egoic view, because we get to figure out some answers here. You can look at some of the patterns that are shaping your reality and noticing even current living family members. For example, I have created several relationships in the past where I was not in my feminine power. I was operating from the masculine wounding. I was in violent, scary relationships with manipulators. And I've seen this pattern in a lot of the women living currently in my family. And so one of the things that I made a choice to look at as I looked at my family history and some of the things that might have created that wounding was the women in generations past and what was going on in world events, what the mindset was for women in the past, and really allowing myself to unburden myself from their baggage and to focus on my own, standing in my own light. How can I make a stand to live in my empowered feminine energy? And the more I did that, the more I witnessed the women in my waking reality in my family that are currently alive today finding their voice, finding their power, making choices that I couldn't make back then, that I now, as an embodied divine feminine, can clearly and easily make because of the healing that I've done. Now I'm watching them. I'm watching my own daughter stand in her fully embodied divine feminine. As a 16-year-old, watching her use her voice, honor her monthly bleed, stand in her power, honor her sacred vessel, speak her truth. It's such a beautiful thing to watch and to see those cycles be broken. I worked with a woman on some of her healing who, for some reason, just couldn't create wealth. And she noted she was actually carrying the wounds of the patriarchal wounding of women weren't allowed to handle money. Women weren't responsible with money. And so she went back and she spoke life into her ancestors, teaching them, you do have the power. You do have the wisdom. You do have the right to do this. And then she claimed that right for herself and shifted everything. For me, the money wound in my family dated back to the era of the Depression. So in my family, I noticed kind of a scarcity mindset. It didn't matter how much money the people in my family had. There was a certain lineage in my family where I noticed women were being very, they hoarded things. They hoarded the food. They always did the coupons. They would spend the money, but then be fearful that they didn't have money. I saw a lot of these patterns. And I didn't want to carry that trait on, and I didn't want my kids or future generations to have that. So I took a look back and I noticed that my great-great-grandmother lived during the time of the Great Depression. And she lived in this very rural town, and they had everything was wiped out. They had literally nothing. And reading through old journals, and I'm very lucky in that my family has always kept very meticulous records through journals, through photographs, through all of the means that they had. And I am very well versed in historical research. And so I was able to find all of this information and very clearly see where this wound had started. And I was able to, number one, speak life into myself, teaching myself to have a really beautiful empowered relationship with money, knowing that it never had to leave, and also knowing I didn't have to be attached to it, that money wasn't the thing that created my safety, that it was this internal feeling of safety and abundance. And when I felt empowered and grounded in that, I went back and I spoke life into these women throughout history. And I said, you always have enough. You are so abundant. And I watched these ties be broken. And again, I'm witnessing the women in my current reality, in my current family, experiencing a different relationship with wealth. It's such a powerful thing. And it's really cool too to realize that not everything happening in your life is yours, and that you have the power to break these cycles. And if you go back to last week's episode, The Power of the Subconscious Mind, you'll see one of the easiest ways to break the cycles is to focus on the reality you desire, not by investing in the cycles of the past, not by investing in these old stories and patterns. And so you'll see I never felt pity for the women in my family line who suffered abuse or who suffered from poverty. I never once felt pity for them. I allowed myself to step in as the empowered witness, to be a clear vision of all that they are, and to remind them of that power. I could hold space for the wound that was there, but I was not going to invest in that mindset, right? Because I'm not carrying their burdens. And that created a very clear pathway for me to do this work. It was this weightlessness of, I can see this clearly as the observer. And I know the power of my energy, of my subconscious mind. I know how to rewrite realities. And so first I do it for myself, and then I speak that love and light into my ancestors. And anytime it got heavy or hard, I could call on them. In fact, as I was doing a lot of the divine feminine healing, I had pictures of all the women that I could find access to throughout each and every family line. And I would put them on my altar, and I would look into their eyes, and I would ask for their guidance, and I would remember them. Now, as I'm doing a lot of the father wound work and doing a lot of the healing for the male side on my family, and really allowing myself to feel the protection of my own inner masculine, I have a picture of several of my grandfathers and great grandfathers, and I'm really studying what they went through, the weight that they carried, and seeing how I've been scared to embody my own inner masculine in that way. And it's this really powerful balance. And you get to do it however it's called to you. If there's one specific thing in your life, one specific pattern that you notice was yours and your mom's and your grandma's, right? Or you notice this feeling around all of the men in your family. Notice the way that it's showing up in your life. Unburden yourself from all of their wounds. Stand in your power. Do what you can to heal yourself and hold the light, and then go back to them. And the healing for yourself is really deep inner child and shadow work, going back to your own inner child that absorbed a lot of these patterns, right? Just by seeing your mom or sister, or grandma or grandpa or dad as these role models, seeing what they projected into the world, and reteaching your inner child a different way, speaking life back into him, her, or them, and saying, there gets to be an easier way. Suffering is not a requirement of being here on earth. That's a thought pattern that we created as humans to try to justify things. All of these feelings of guilt and shame that we might carry from our ancestors, they are man-made ways to oppress and suppress us. There is no reason to feel badly about yourself, who you are, or what you are worth. And if you have those feelings coming up in your life, that's a segment of this work to look at. First, identifying if it's purely yours, or if this comes through patterns of generational trauma and wounding, and then allowing yourself to unburden yourself, do the work, and speak life into your ancestors. I also want you to remember that our ancestors gave us way more than wounds. Our ancestors gave us so much. Looking back through so many of the men and women in my family, I saw their innovations. I saw their ability to create powerful, beautiful recipes. The way my great-great-grandmother was able to weave these incredible quilts out of scraps of fabric. The way that one of my grandmothers was able to create amazing meals for her family with basically nothing. The way that my most recent grandmother truly allowed herself to be taken care of. And I was able to see the positive even amidst all of the woundings that came with it. And so as I did this work, I found myself doing so much recipe creation, baking, gardening. I got the opportunity to sew again. I used to sew quilts all the time, and I had the opportunity to sew my daughter's backpack and sew her prom dress, and I felt the amazing feelings of my ancestors moving through me. As I saw my grandmother being taken care of, I told myself how easy it was for me to be taken care of, for me to be provided for me to be protected. And I had this deepening of the relationship with me and all these women. And the same thing is moving through me with all of the men in my family. As I see both their powers, their gifts, and their woundings, I'm able to take all of the quote unquote good, right? And heal and empower the wounds. And it's such a beautiful, incredible healing process, especially with my grandfather that passed recently. It's been so beautiful for our relationship as he's crossed over, for me to deepen into connection with him again, for me to really see him as the man he was and everything that he moved through. This healing work is so powerful on so many levels. And, another disclaimer is not to get too attached, right? Still remembering that you are a divine being. And while here on this earthly plane, you have these connections. When we are in the astral realm, we are all one. We are all connected. And so you chose to come down to this reality, to do work on this particular family line, to learn these particular lessons and ways of being, to break these particular cycles of this family line and of these woundings. And it does not define you. You are a cosmic, eternal soul in a timeless reality, learning and evolving as much as you can during this earthly experience, having as many incredible experiences in this earthly realm as possible, not labeling them good, bad, right, or wrong, not carrying the shame or guilt or burdens, but simply being at one with life, being surrendered to life happening for and through you. You are so powerful. This work is so powerful. And I'm standing with you each and every step of the way. And I'm so excited for you to listen to Friday's activation with this ancestral healing. It's so powerful. And if you desire to deepen into this work with me, you can check out the link below this to check out all the ways that I work with people. My favorite is my Embodied Divinity mentorship program, a 6-month intimate one-on-one container where we move through all of the different wounding patterns and help you walk and live in your highest self permanently. Thank you guys so much for being with me today. I love you. Breathe deep and plan on miracles. See you next time.